Well, hello, friends, and welcome back to the No More Perfect podcast.
Have you ever found yourself just worn out from carrying all the heavy lifting in your marriage? Like you're the only one listening to podcasts, you're the only one reading the books, having the conversations. Why am I the only one?
Or at least that's what it feels like.
Yes.
And so today's episode is actually coming from a listener's question. And that question is this: is the woman in the marriage the one who does most of the heavy lifting, promoting emotional growth? It's a good question.
It is a good question.
And we want to answer it today. We want to tackle it today.
Yep.
And we're going to start right up front by saying the answer is no.
No, it's not.
But it is more often.
Because they are most often the anxious attachment, and the anxious attachment is always pursuing more.
That's right.
Although the avoidant attachment has a different perspective about their relationship.
Right. Because, so let's just pause for a second. Let's make sure, because you may be listening to this and you've not heard us talk about attachment. So attachment is the relating patterns that you carry from childhood
Right.
into marriage. And it's how you figured out how relationships work. And not only that, based upon whether you had some emotional connection, but maybe not quite enough to satisfy, you're always looking for a little bit more. Or maybe in the case of avoidance, you might have been loved and well taken care of, but there wasn't a whole lot of emotional connection or paying attention to emotions. And so you learn to shut those down. And so what we find in answer to this question: is the woman in the marriage the one who does most of the heavy lifting, promoting emotional growth? The answer is it's the person with anxious attachment who is the one who does the heavy lifting, promoting emotional growth.
And in our marriage, that was me.
That was you.
I was highly anxious, fearful, anxious, and I was always trying to change things, get better, fix things. But it really wasn't so much about us, although I thought it was about us. It was really about me finding a relief to my anxiety.
Yes.
Which actually had nothing to do with us. It was all about me.
But you had no idea. And my guess is most of the folks listening who actually have anxious attachment have no idea either, unless they've learned about attachment.
Yeah.
So there's nothing wrong with actually wanting your marriage to be better. And honestly, either partner can want the marriage to be better.
Right.
Okay. So let's just start there. But oftentimes, the one with the anxious attachment is constantly looking for connection. And it's almost like they have an insatiable desire for connection. Now, they would say they don't. They would say, well, if he would only do this, or if she would only do that. But let me tell you, from experience, that doesn't satisfy it. From experience, both in our own marriage and in the marriage, in the marriage coaching role that we play with others, is that when a partner will actually step into that thing, then there's another thing that's wanted. Another thing that's wanted.
It was like I wasn't satisfied, and we would be experiencing connection, but it didn't look the way that I thought it would, or the way that I envisioned. And it didn't look the way I expected. And so then I was disappointed, and I wanted more. I was disappointed. I wanted more. Disappointed. I wanted more. It was just that perpetual, it was almost like a tornado whipping through our relationship.
Yeah. So the anxious partner is always seeking more, feeling like it's not enough. And the avoidant partner is often very content in the relationship.
Mm.
They don't feel like anything's missing. I totally felt like that. I was like, the anxious says it's not fine. The avoidant says it's fine.
Mhm.
And the anxious is like, no, it's not. And the avoidant's like, no, it's fine. And honestly, neither extreme is fully right.
Mhm.
Okay.
Mhm.
Neither is fully right. It's never as bad as the anxious thinks it is, but it's also not as good as the avoidant thinks it is. And
Right.
we certainly saw that
Right.
in our relationship.
Yep.
Yeah. So oftentimes what we also find is particularly, I don't know that this played out in our relationship as much. You can correct me if I'm wrong, but we certainly see it in the relationships that we coach. And that is where the pursuing partner will often assign a judgment on the other partner that, well, I guess this did happen, but it was a different judgment because a lot of times it's you don't care or you don't care about me.
Mhm.
The judgment you had was you don't need me.
Right.
That was the
Well,
judgment.
and probably those kind of blend in together, but definitely I had judgment. You didn't need me. You're going to be fine by yourself. And so, but those judgments, they're almost an impenetrable wall around even the possibility of getting the very thing we want, and that's connection.
Right. Well, because what ends up happening is, and boy, we see this with the couples
Mhm.
that we work with, is that the very thing that the anxious partner longs for, they actually sabotage
Yes, that was me. Yep.
by not recognizing the things that do happen.
Mhm.
Because what often happens is they're not recognizing, like for instance, maybe somebody. Well, I can remember one person that we or one couple we were working with, and the anxious partner was like, we're not reading the Bible together every morning when we have coffee. And they were just distraught that in their mind, a healthy spiritual connection meant that you were opening the Bible every morning
Mhm.
when you had coffee. Now, I can't remember if they saw their parents do that or if they just had a picture in their mind. This is what it looks like.
Mhm.
But the reality is, as a couple, they were taking walks
Mhm.
and they were talking about spiritual things.
Mhm.
And
They were sharing scriptures that they both were reading.
yeah,
And so that anxiety really causes us to miss what's happening.
yeah,
And that for sure was me. I was missing those connections and I wasn't allowing you really to play to your strength and me to play to my strength. I wasn't allowing our team strengths together to reveal themselves because I had all these unrealistic expectations.
yeah. And I was, you know, the avoidance tendency is to actually be more, it's your world is kind of around work and accomplishment and getting things done. And there's always a to-do list. And so what I was bringing dysfunctionally in that arena was not always prioritizing our relationship.
Mhm.
Like I would prioritize the big things. Like I
Mhm.
always valued date night and certainly some couples may be dealing with the fact that one partner doesn't value date night. I always did, but I was missing the importance of emotional connection on a daily basis.
Mhm. We didn't know what that was.
We
Right.
didn't. Nope, we didn't. And so what will often happen is whoever it is,
Mhm.
male or female, there's often one partner that wants more,
Mhm.
longs for more, and the other that feels like you're fine
Mhm.
and they're not looking for more. And so what often happens is in frustration, the partner who longs for more will indict rather than invite.
Mhm. Yeah.
They will start with the you nevers.
Mhm.
You never take me out on a date. You never take time for us in the evening.
You always do this.
Mhm.
Yeah. And it's
You're-
not a positive you always, it's a negative.
So that doesn't exactly make it appealing
Right? Yeah.
to want to engage with you.
Right.
Right? So the very thing that you are longing for, you're actually sabotaging by the way in which oftentimes it will be approached. And so what we want to learn how to do is we want to, if you are the one that desires something more for your relationship, so we're going to look at two things that you can do. One is you can invite that connection, and we'll talk about that. The other is you can accept your partner where they are and learn to find some contentment in that. Right. So, but let's first talk about the inviting part. And so you might say something like, I'm longing for something a little bit more in our relationship, like maybe a little bit more daily connection. I don't even know what that means. But could we brainstorm it? I mean, it could be as small as maybe just 10 minutes of sitting and having a cup of coffee together, or in my case, a cup of tea, because I don't drink coffee. But, it doesn't have to be a big thing. And so there's several things I just did in that little invitation. The first is I talked about myself. I'm longing for something. And I'm wondering, so the second part is I'm wondering if we could just brainstorm some ideas. And then the third thing I did is I reassured my partner that maybe it's not even a big thing. It's a little thing, because oftentimes we can overwhelm our partner with an expectation, and they're immediately going, I don't have time for that. But when you can say, hey, it may just be a tiny tweak that we make. It could be that when we finish dinner, we sit and talk another 5 minutes before we clear the table and put everything away and go on with our evening.
Right. And for every couple, that pattern or routine has to be individualized or coupleized, if that's a word. But like for us, our morning routines were so different because of our personalities.
You're a morning guy. I am a night owl.
Right. And so mornings didn't work. Late nights didn't work because
you're toast.
I'm toast. So we found that around dinner time or shortly after, we'd hang out for 15, 20 minutes and process our day, our expectations for the night. But that was connection. And that was so good for us.
Right. And so the way in which you invite your partner has to be an invitation, not an accusation. Because when that accusation comes, it is not going to be a productive conversation.
Right.
So that's looking at it from asking your partner if you could just brainstorm. And then, we often have something called discussions of no decision. We're not leveraging for either one of us to get our way on something. We're just brainstorming ideas.
Right.
We're having a discussion of no decision. We're going to say, well, what about this? Or what about that? And so I get my ideas on the table. You get your ideas on the table. And so that's what happens when we brainstorm, right? So I would say that would be your partner may be willing if you just approach them in a way that feels like an invitation instead of an accusation. The second way that this often can be handled, in our No More Perfect Marriages book, we talk about the 8 God tools, and the God tools are the tools that God gives us in His Word to help us learn how to respond rather than react to each other. And so the God tools are courage, forgiveness, grace, love,
wisdom, compassion, humility, acceptance.
And acceptance. And so it's that God tool of acceptance that's really, really powerful because that acceptance actually creates safety in the relationship.
Yep.
And safety is that safety is like fertilizer for growth.
Yep. And you can always tell when that God tool is needed. It's where you're most frustrated. And and I really had to work through that tool to accept you and to accept our differences and to accept that we could play to our strengths. I could accept you and become content. And that was a game changer for us because it took all that excessive pressure off of you and off of us, and it allowed us to be ourselves.
Yeah. It was like a pressure of performance.
Yeah.
Like I wasn't doing the things you wanted me to do. And
Right.
so you kept looking for me to perform.
Yep.
And one really practical step in acceptance is actually to stop measuring what's missing and to start seeing what your spouse actually brings.
Yeah. Because for us who are anxious, we focus on what we lack
Sure.
instead of what is real.
Mhm.
And that lack can be overwhelming. And then we start confirmational bias. Yes, see, you should have been doing this. You should have. And then that's where we know that our unrealistic expectations are just working overtime.
Right. So confirmational bias is when we look for evidence that actually confirms usually a negative narrative.
Yeah.
So it's like, you're looking for the ways your spouse doesn't measure up, your spouse doesn't connect, but you're missing maybe the ways it happens, like we said earlier, but it looks differently than what your expectation actually is. And then see, when we are fueling that internally, it builds resentment and it builds bitterness. And that ultimately pushes a spouse away.
Yeah.
That does not draw them. That doesn't make them want to connect. And so then that's when we become another hindrance to what we actually crave. And when you actually moved from criticizing me to celebrating me, that was huge.
Yeah.
And there were ways, while you were the one that had lots and lots of expectations and you were always disappointed, there were ways I did as well, not to the extent that you did. But when I moved from criticizing you to celebrating you, you felt that as well.
Yep. I know that I started to really work on this by finding daily gratitudes for the little things that you were doing that were uniquely you. And I began to measure myself when I would think Jill should, Jill ought. I knew that I was in that negative thinking that wasn't healthy.
Your expectations.
Yeah.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah.
So from a practical perspective, just this simple little prayer, Lord, help me to see the connection that is happening. Help me to see the positive things about my partner that I am missing because I'm so focused on the negative. Yeah. I think about one of my friends. She has a husband. I mean, he's just a great guy. He's a great guy. And, he loves God. He loves people. But he is not going to be into any of this fluffy relationship stuff. He's just not. He's not going to be interested in deepening their conversations. And, but he's a great guy. And so she's really gotten to the place of acceptance. And she and I were talking about this not too terribly long ago. And when she really stopped wanting something from him that he's probably never, ever going to be able to bring
Mm-hmm.
because it's just not who he is.
Mm-hmm.
When she was able to accept that, her contentment skyrocketed.
Mm-hmm.
And she found her desire for deep relational and even spiritual conversations. She found that in her friendships instead of in her marriage.
Mm-hmm.
And so she just came to a place to go, I'm just going to accept him for who he is.
Mm-hmm.
I'm going to recognize I do need this myself. I do
Right.
long for this myself. I can find this. I have good friends who love to talk about relationship strategies and who love to talk about spiritual things. And I am going to just let that be satisfying
Mm-hmm.
for me and not expect it from him.
Yeah. As you were talking, Jill, I think of how many places we get these unrealistic ideas. We're taught them. It's emphasized. It seems to be validated through data, but yet it's so unrealistic. Like I think of there was a big men's movement years ago that really emphasized that your wife is your soulmate, your wife is your best friend, your wife is your go-to for everything, and it's unrealistic because that may be true for some, but it's not true for everybody.
Mm-hmm.
And you and I think we go to each other more than we ever have. I would say the friendship side of our marriage is deeper than it's ever been. But I am not your girlfriend's,
Right.
and you're not my guy
Yeah.
that I hang out with. And so it's like one individual can't be everything that
Right.
we want them to be.
Right.
And
yes.
And as long as we are caught in that negative cycle and that negative, reinforcement of that idea, we're frustrated.
Yeah. Yep. We are. And without realizing it, we can actually even we can take it a step further. I was working with an individual who's very discontent in her marriage, and she actually made this statement. She said, "When he does what I want, I feel connected. When he doesn't do what I want, I don't." And while I understand the reality of that, the truth is that is actually conditional, transactional love.
And we just did a podcast about that very thing.
Well, we did it on selfishness.
Yep. And
because conditional love is selfish.
It is. And man, my face might be along some of yours on that podcast because that is me. That is our nature that we are always fighting against, that we tend to be selfish.
Yeah.
And we view and measure one another based upon our selfish demands, our selfish expectations, our wants.
We have to learn how to love unconditionally.
Mm-hmm.
We have to increase our capacity to love, because sometimes our partner is going to do the things we want them to do, and sometimes they're not.
Right. But even when they don't, we're called to still love.
We are.
And I mean, man, Jesus models that big time.
Yeah, he does. And, but that's also kind of, it ties all together with expectations and all of that. Like, I have a picture of what a loving husband looks like, or I have a picture of what a loving wife looks like.
Mm-hmm.
And my spouse is not matching that picture. And so therefore, I am feeling not drawn to them. And so you would, most of us would say especially when we're in the discontent phase, we would say that's a marriage problem. And we would say that's a heart problem for you.
Right.
That's a heart problem for you. And that's where you need to examine your heart. And when your heart is in that kind of a position, what's really important to understand is that's when you're going to come out accusing.
Or defensive and really leaning towards bitterness. And that's hard to find contentment when your spouse is that way. It's hard for that spouse to find connection, not contentment, connection.
Yeah, for sure. Because at that point, you're like, I want to be connected, but you're a porcupine.
Right. Yes. This is not fun.
Right. Why would I want to connect with you when all you are is angry and bitter and accusing and doesn't make me want to even draw close. It makes me want to go the other direction.
Yeah.
Which is why I say sometimes we sabotage that ourselves.
Oh, totally.
Right?
Yep.
But here's the good news is first, we say that marriage improvement is 70% individual growth and 30% couple growth.
Yeah. So you want to say that again?
So marriage improvement is 70% personal growth and 30% couple growth.
We think a lot of times it's the opposite.
Like everybody tends to think it's the opposite. Like we need marriage counseling. We need this. We need that. Sometimes you do.
Yeah.
Sometimes you do. But a lot of times it can start by examining our own heart, our own expectations, our own anxiety, our own addiction to tasks and getting things done. That would be on my side of things. And so when we look at ourselves and then we can make, like when you started to become more content, and you started to see the good in me and you started to accept me for who I was, like our marriage improved.
Yeah.
And I didn't do anything in that moment with that.
No. And really that leans into another principle that we teach. And when I become a better me, we become a better we.
Right.
And I can remember the change, and it was almost immediate. I mean, there was still a lot to work through in all the hurt created by my actions. But when I started to relax my demands and I started to accept you and entirely, it changed me.
Yeah.
And it was like...
And it changed our marriage.
It was like
I felt it too.
God shaved off all the
the porcupine needles.
Yeah. And it was crazy cool how all of a sudden we're interacting differently and all of a sudden we're starting to experience the very marriage I craved, but that I was actually hindering.
Yeah. And I wanted, like, when I felt safe, I wanted to connect. I wanted to be better. I wanted, and so that's where we say safety is fertilizer for growth. Right. And so when you were able to kind of stop judging me and start accepting me, then also when I would make growth, you would see it. And that, and you would appreciate it and value it. It really was a huge game changer.
Yeah.
And the thing about understanding attachment, whether you're anxious or you're avoidant, is understanding you don't have to stay there.
Right.
You get to work towards becoming secure.
And that's attainable and that you can do it. And that was all of a sudden, I moved from hopeless to hope because I saw that I could become secure. I didn't have to keep battling the same old stuff day after day, year after year. I could be different. And as I work to become different, we become different.
Yeah. We have a free attachment quiz on our website, and we'll put the link to that in the show notes. But that's a great place to start. So we liken anxious attachment to being like a dog, and avoidant attachment to being like a cat.
You know, the dog's going, hey, look at me, play with me. Come on, hang out. Come on.
And the cat's going, would you just calm down? Everything's fine. You're just way too emotional.
Yeah. Way too needy. I know. Come on. Don't you need me?
And so you can take our free attachment quiz and find out if you're a dog or a cat.
Yep.
We also have it's a short course. It's a 3-session course, 3 hour and 15-minute sessions, but it's called the attachment course. So you can take that for a further understanding of, and you can take that on your own, or if your partner's willing, for both of you to take the quiz and then for you to take the course and learn about each other. So both of those, we'll put the links to both of those in the show notes. And what I will say is, if you have a partner that really is checked out, okay, like even if you're doing the right things, if you're making an invitation rather than an accusation, and they are just checked out, they are not in a good place. It feels like they're, really not even happy being married type of a thing. But or maybe they've told you that, and but I want you to also know about our course, The Weight Is Not Wasted. That's for when a partner is checked out and they will do nothing to engage in the marriage. They will do nothing to make connection. And so we'll put a link. We have a free webinar for The Weight Is Not Wasted, but we also have the Weight Is Not Wasted course. And we'll put a link to both of those in the show notes as well, so that you actually have like some next steps with attachment, as well as if your partner really is fully checked out. But we hope for that one listener out there that asked the question, is it the woman who is usually the one who is carrying the weight of being emotionally connected in marriage? We hope that this has answered your question, maybe from a slightly different angle than you expected. And even if you didn't ask that question, it might have been a question that was deep inside of you, or it's been a frustration. And we hope that this has given you some clarity as well. Want to pray?
I will. Father, thank you so much for the question. And Lord, thank you that you lead us to become secure, that Jesus Christ really is the first secure connector, and we are empowered and led by him to become like him, and so we can become secure. Give hope, Lord, and give guidance and direction. In Jesus' name, amen.
Amen.